Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special spotlight here from the Epic Film Guys podcast. I am Nick, and I am thrilled, absolutely thrilled to be joined by a friend of the show, brother of the show, down in Perth. Paul from the Countdown Movie and TV Reviews is here, and we are going to talk about John Woo's Hard Boiled. How the hell are you, my friend?
I am excellent. And are you slightly less enthused and happy that I'm here third time round?
I mean, that's what I was wondering. I was like, I got to try to do the opening like a little bit different every time, because otherwise it's going to get really ridiculous. We're recording 4 spotlights in one day.
We are,
and
in one hit.
Individualizing each one of them so that way they can air whenever and however.
So this is your behind-the-scenes glimpse as to what magic happens in the podcasting land.
Peek behind the curtain.
Hey, who are you?
I remembered to push
the Hopester. Nice of him to join us too. Thanks for having me back. It's a pleasure to be here. I've had a lot of fun already, and I think we're going to have a lot of fun talking about this movie as well.
Oh my God. So full disclosure, this is John Woo, 1992 Hong Kong action thriller starring Chow Yun-fat. And
sorry, I think what you meant to say there was international action star Chow Yun-fat.
There you go. So I didn't know this at the time, but Paul said if we can't find it, then we're just going to have to skip it because he didn't have a copy of it to send to me. And I was like, okay, let me see if I can find it. So I dug and I dug and I dug and I found a copy of it, not knowing that it was the dubbed version of it. The dubbing in this film, think of the most over-the-top, stereotypical dubbing you can possibly think of in terms of character voices. That's what they did to the dub in this film, and it's absurd. Like, it makes the film unintentionally hilarious, because I know you could definitely tell in some situations, in some contexts, and whatever, that there's meant to be funnier scenes, obviously. But no, the dubbing is just horrible. It's kind of one of those things that has to be heard to be believed. So cue up a scene of it on YouTube or something if you're brave enough. I want to find a version of this without dubbing, though, because this film kicks so much fucking ass.
Glad you liked it, despite the dubbing.
Stupid how good this movie is.
And it's also stupid how ridiculous it is, but that's what makes it so awesome.
It's so, and you know what it reminds me of, and Justin would actually really appreciate this. I'm sure Justin's seen this movie, but I think Justin would really appreciate it because it kind of takes me to like some of the later Death Wish sequels with Bronson, where it's deliberately a little bit over the top, and it's played so perfectly and it's executed so well. I understand now why John Woo became like the big guy to go to for action in the 90s.
Yeah.
Completely
this is
understand
his last
it.
Hong Kong film. It's sort of all built to this with A Better Tomorrow and The Killer, and then this one came and it wasn't as well received, but he wanted to make a film that was, because all the other films were about gangsters and kind of glorifying them. So he answered that criticism by creating this film about the cops and glorifying them and their fight against the gangsters. And I don't know if it didn't go down as well with the critics, but it still made enough money and did well enough that he caught Hollywood's eye. And so after this, he went across and did, I think, I could be wrong, but Hard Target was his first, with Jean-Claude Van Damme, was his first American film.
Oh, so I have to have you talk about this specifically, because this was one of the films that you definitely recommended I watch. And I know that you are a big fan of this film, so please tell us why you're such a big fan of this film. And if you've ever seen it, you know why. But just, I want to hear it in your words why this film is as good as it is.
Maybe I can summarize it by saying the main character in it is played by international action star Chow Yun-fat, and he is understand this, a clarinet playing police officer who's as hard as nails and an alcoholic. And when he sort of gets on the tail or the track of this particular gangster and runs across this undercover cop, or turns out to be an undercover cop, and the two of them pair up to take down this gangster, he is, I don't know, apart from being the best shot in the entire world, which they several times emphasize this movie, not by dialogue, just by him making shots that are not at all possible. But he also packs his shotgun. And I don't know, Nick, I'm certainly not a weapons expert. I don't wish to portray or make myself sound like one. But I've never seen a shotgun which manages to effectively blow up anything it hits with every shot, including with the Foley work, making it sound like, I don't know, a tank has fired off in the background. So it takes a pretty big gun to match a pretty big character, and that is Tequila, Inspector Tequila Yen Yohoyan, as his full name is in this film. And he's so larger than life, and the action sequences are so utterly ridiculous. They are jaw-droppingly awesome. I watched this in a room full of people when I was about 18 years old, 19 years old maybe, and we all stuck it on after a few beers thinking, we'll have it on the background and just continue talking and whatever. We all went silent after the first action scene in the tea house and watched enraptured for the rest of this movie, which ends with arguably one of the greatest gunfights in cinema history.
Oh my God, does it? And when I talk about comparing this to Death Wish with Bronson, specifically Death Wish 3, like the whole third act action sequence in that movie is just so balls to the wall insane and amazing. This is even better. And it's just so perfectly executed from top to bottom. Wong is the head of the triad that's in the film. He's the villain of the film, and his dubbing is by far the worst and most cartoonish. So every time he was on the screen, it was just like, I can't wait to watch this without dubbing, because it totally colored my experience in one way for it. But when you talk about probably best gunfights, it's got to be in the top of the list. It's got to be up by the top of the list if it's not the best, because it just keeps going. And that's the most amazing thing about it, is it's one of those action films where the action sequences just don't stop, and they just don't let up. And when you think that they're going to stop, and when you think that they're going to slow down, and when you think that they're not going to get better, they just get better. It's amazing.
Yep.
And the choreography
better and better
that has to go on behind the scenes for them to put this kind of stuff on. When I watch this, I'm in awe. Just knowing how much work this must have taken before the cameras ever rolled to make it look so amazing.
It took 123 days to shoot this movie, according to Wikipedia. And a lot of and they also did the whole old trick, which in making my film I've done, where they basically boarded up the windows, put things over the top of them, so it was permanently at night in this last act, which all takes place in this hospital. So it's set at night, but they were shooting through the day and into the nights, and it got so bad, they were there for so long, that most of the actors and the extras just completely lost track of time, and because they were always in this building, and apparently it was quite hellish. That's the level that John Woo went to, and of course John Woo appears in the film as well. Did you see him? He's the bartender that Tequila is talking to for advice all the way through the film. So John Woo, doing his best Hitchcock impersonation, decided to throw himself in there.
He's got to give him direction, even on set, even in character. Oh,
yeah, gotta like that.
The film. There's a seven minute one shot action scene, which involves some incredible camera work, just moving fluidly between these guys, shooting some impressive pyrotechnics, some awesome blood splatter, some people diving through plate glass windows. It's mind blowing, insane. Like, I wish you could have watched me. I really need to just start doing like Nick watches videos, because when I see films like this, like my jaw was just like hanging open. I was just like, throughout like the action sequences. I mean, there's some definitely long and kind of laboriously slow parts of this film where I was like, this probably could have been short up a little bit. I don't know if that was the dub affecting that
agree.
Though. The dub
I don't think so.
Colored that a little bit for me, but even still.
But to be honest, you needed a bit of a break, because had that been
that's true
the whole way through the film, it would have been ridiculous.
It would have been probably too over the top, so it needed to slow it down a little bit. Yeah, maybe. My mouth was just open, like especially during that final action sequence at the hospital, like literally the whole time. Just like you just expect it. Okay, this is gonna wrap up. So no, it's not. It's just gonna keep.
There's 35 minutes to go. What?
I also love how many times, like, are all the people in this film superhuman? Because
clearly
all of them get shot numerous times and are still just up, just doing stuff. And I love over the top action like this, where like they have to shoot like how many times does the one guy at the beginning of the movie in the tea house get shot, and he's still moving on the ground by the time it's over.
I think it was it Benny? Is it
Benny?
No,
yeah.
What was? Yeah. Okay.
He's got so many, like you could see, like, he's laying on the ground there, and you could see all of the different bullet wounds. Like he's got like 20 bullet wounds, and he's still on the ground moving and talking for a minute before he dies. It's like, what?
Which is the reason why Tequila gets so pissed off, and when he finally gets the gunman, because that guy gets shot about 10 times as well before he finally goes down.
Yep.
But when he slides up to him and he's all covered in white, he does that move of the toothpick across the other side of his mouth and just blows his head off.
Yep.
It's great. It's a great shot.
Yeah, which is just absolutely amazing. Like the practical effects work in this film is just outstanding. You talked about the camera movements. It's outstanding. I mean, and it's definitely foreign language, so you've got to take it with the subs, or you can watch the dubbed version, which I swear to God adds so many more levels. Probably none of them in a good way, but if you've never seen this film, I promise you, your mouth will fall open and you will just watch it in awe. Like, you will not understand how a film could be this good. I posted that like over on Twitter and on Facebook after I watched it. I'm like, I don't even understand how this is so good. Or I think I called it the best movie ever made like 4 times. Just because like it's amazing. Like, this is why movies should be made, is to just like I said, you could tell just the one shot and all the choreography, all the stunt work, and just how amazingly well everything is shot and everything is directed by John Woo. This is why movies exist. This is why I love going to the movies, or why I love watching movies, because they just grab you and they do not let you go for the entire runtime of the film. Like I said, this was the dubbed version. This movie's ridiculous to listen to, but it is beyond a treat to just see everything unfold in front of your eyes. So even if you're not a fan of foreign language films, get over it, watch it, you will love it.
100% agree with everything you said. I'm going to blow your mind one last time, Nick. What do you think the budget was for Hard Boiled?
Oh, God.
Now, it's $1992, so it's not obviously one-to-one comparison, but still.
$20 million.
$4.5 million.
Jesus. I mean, I guess it makes
Pretty
a lot
impressive.
of sense, though, because, they're able to, long drawn-out action sequences at one location. But how? God damn. Nobody made any money on this movie. None of the actors or anything.
Well, you have to wonder. That's exactly right. He managed to shoot it. And I would imagine that's why he also made the transition to Hollywood, because he was able to shoot these things for a lot less than probably an American counterpart at that point in time would have been able to do. Of course, he does go on eventually to do Mission Impossible 2 and Face Off, so he eventually gets to the big leagues there. So, but yeah, this is the stomping ground. And if you like this film, go back and watch The Killer as well. The Killer is the action's not as good, but it's a bit more grounded. It's a bit more realistic. Although I hesitate to use that word when it comes to any John Woo film.
Right. It just takes me, and it makes me think of movies like Face Off, which I adore.
Yep.
It's definitely, it's one of the most 90s movies that ever 90s. Kind of. And really, if you've ever seen it, you know exactly that's correct. It's just, but that's another thing about this movie is I was thinking about that when I was watching this movie, is how 90s it is, especially the clothing. I mean, it makes sense. It was made in 92. I get it, but
there's some shoulder pads.
Is so 90s. Like the khaki pants, like the way that they wear the khaki pants and everything. It's like, I'm like, you could watch this film no matter when, and you immediately know it was made in the 90s just from watching it. It's insanely 90s with its aesthetic, which I also really, really love.
Well, it sounds like you're a hard positive on this one, which I'm really pleased about. I thought of all the ones we had to watch. Oh no, maybe there's one. The last film we've got to talk about. I wondered how you'd be about that one, but we'll get there. But I'm stoked. You're going to give it a score out of 10, then, Nick?
I mean, I can't. The one thing about this film that I can't really comment on too much is performances, because it was dubbed. So I can obviously see the actors and everything. And I think everything looked great in terms of their performances. Like, nothing looked ridiculous or anything, but the dub took me out of the performances so much, and that's not a fault of this film at all. It's a fault of whoever dubbed it. So it's tough for me to rate it just in terms of performances and stuff. But I will say, just in terms of like the action and stuff, the action is like 100 out of 10. It's insane. Like, even without the dub, I would guarantee I would put this like an 8 or 9. Like, I loved it. I was blown away by how good this movie was. It was insanely good.
I think I'm right there with you. It's, you don't do halves, but it probably would be an 8.5 for me. But given the budget on it, and for this kind of film, I don't really care about performances as long as they don't take you right out of the film, which the dub clearly did for you, or at least added those other layers. But for sheer action, for sheer spectacle, the sheer ambition of this movie is just second to none, and I'm so glad that everybody involved with it, well, particularly, obviously, John Woo and Chow Yun-fat, but Tony Leung went on to have a big career as well. It's you must see this film if you're an action film fan. There you go.
Just please, for the love of God, find the non-dubbed version, or if you, I am a huge anime fan. Like, I've watched a lot of anime that's been dubbed. I've never seen or heard dubbing this bad. And you could tell this was kind of made during that era where, like, we wouldn't really care. Like nowadays, and just watch it without the dubbing. But even if a studio were to dub this now, like, that they would do it really, really, like, they take a lot more time and effort to really craft it and make it a lot better, I think. And this is kind of, it's cartoonish,
for sure,
and almost offensive, like, just how they portray, like, how the Asian characters would have acted. Like, that's just how ridiculous and over the top the dub in this film is. But even if you can only find the dub, do not let it ruin your experience. Like, I really just put it out of mind, and like, when the characters were talking, I was just kind of like, almost like plug my ears levels of like, I don't want to hear this. But stick with it, I promise. It's just amazing. It, like, the action alone is well worth the price of entry here. Whatever you have to pay, see it. You'll love it, I promise.
100% agree.
All right, well, Paul, where can our audience find the countdown on the web?
Hit us up on Google, Countdown Movie and TV Reviews, on Twitter at The Countdown PC, and we're on Facebook as well.
All right, and you can also find us at epicfilmguys.com. Please support the live stream for The Cure, which this may air during, may not, I don't know. Depends on exactly where it falls, but if you are listening to this and it is a live stream for The Cure, please donate. Livestreamforthecure.com/donate, or you can find a link right down below the video. Big red donate button, smack that, and please make a donation to fight cancer for the Cancer Research Institute. Every single penny goes toward an amazing cause for immunotherapy to rid the world of all forms of cancer. Thank you very much, Paul, for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for just recommending this film. My God. My God. And every once in a while, somebody will recommend a movie to me, and I'll watch it, and I'll just be like, I love you. This was that movie, Paul. I love you. Thank you.
Solidifying something very special.
Thank you all so much out there for listening. We love you. You guys are amazing, and we really appreciate it. For myself, for Paul, thank you all so much, and we will see you at the movies.